AviationPros.com is the portal website for AMT, Airport Business, and Ground Support Worldwide magazines. Visit daily for breaking news, industry blogs, and insightful articles from our magazine's editorial team. And don't forget to sign up for our publication's daily e-newsletters. It's all at AviationPros.com.
Hello and welcome to the Aviation Pros podcast. I'm Josh Smith, editor of Ground Support Worldwide magazine, and today we're speaking with Bob McCreery, president at McCreery Aviation, to learn more about his FBO's experience in establishing a safety management system and achieving Stage 3 ISBA registration. Thanks for taking the time to share more on this topic, Bob.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, we're glad to have you along with us. And to let folks know a little background into this topic here, in January, McCreery Aviation, which is located at McAllen International Airport in Texas, announced it had become the third FBO in the United States to achieve ISBA Stage 3 registration. ISBA, or the International Standard for Business Aviation Handling, was developed to align with existing and future safety management system requirements aimed at ground handling service providers. So, Bob, to start with, just looking at the program in general, what prompted McCreery Aviation to initially pursue ISBA registration?
Well, we've always been promoted a safety mindset as a way of doing business down here. And when I saw the ISBA program was announced, we kind of liked it that it integrated a safety management system, or SMS, along with FBO industry best practices into one complete program. And a good friend of mine, Reed Pigman, up at Texas Jet in Fort Worth, about that time had just gone through the process and achieved a Stage 1 registration with ISBA. And so I was visiting with him and saw what that program did to his operation. He had a great operation to begin with, but what I saw that the ISBA brought to his operation was really eye-opening. So as a result of that, I talked to my folks. I said, this is something that we need to really check into.
And so when did your process of actually implementing an SMS and taking those, first initial steps towards Stage 1 ISBA registration, when did that process actually begin?
Well, we started the process in early 2017. So the first thing we did was contracted with my good friend Ron Jackson and John Etnikamp to help us go through this process. We're kind of a small company, probably not staffed well enough to try and bring this thing all on our own. So I brought in a couple of pros to come in and walk us through this program and get us set up. So they really helped us a lot. One of the first things they did, they came in and did a gap analysis of our standard operating procedures, our SOPs, in order to see where we needed to strengthen our program to meet the ISBA protocols. Once they went through that process and was complete, we began organizing our safety committee, which functions as the backbone of our SMS. So throughout the summer, we put all this stuff together, worked with the staff, and by October 2017, we were ready for our first ISBA audit to qualify for Stage 1 registration, which we did. We did go through that process and was approved in November of 2017.
And now I understand it's not necessarily an immediate process then to get your Stage 1 registration and then immediately seek Stage 2 registration. So, how long was it before your FBO felt it was ready to move up to that Stage 2 level?
The Stage 2 qualification requires 2 years in between each one. So we had a couple of years before we would qualify for Stage 2. So during those 2 years, we're working on all of our processes and really refining the program. We made substantial progress with our SMS program, and we could see a significant change in improving our overall internal safety culture. So during that time, we were successful at Stage 2 audit in 2 years of November of 2019. So during that 2 years, it's a lot of work, getting the staff buying into the program, really beginning to other than just have the pieces in place, but really living the ISBA program and the SMS and the safety standards. So yeah, so the first 2 years, we really really grew up in the program, and then after the 2-year program, went through the stage 2 audit, and they found us to meet the criteria for that, and again awarded it back in November of 19.
Along the way, whether pursuing the stage one portion of the registration or stage two or three, what were some of the challenges your organization faced? Whether anticipated challenges or maybe some unexpected things that popped up, and what did your team do to overcome those challenges?
Well, the ISBA process really challenges you to identify your specific safety objectives for your organization. Based on first identifying and then tracking your main safety hazards and events, especially those that happen more frequently over time. The SMS voluntary reporting process, where everyone is involved, really helps to identify these hazards, which are then mitigated by the safety committee. And I must say, having a strong and engaged safety manager is really important in this process to really spearhead this program amongst the team and in management.
Hey, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with Bob McCreery and his FBO's journey to Stage 3 ISBA registration.
Would you like to reach key decision makers in the industry? Share your message on the Aviation Pros podcast and reach key leaders across all facets of aviation, including aircraft maintenance, airports, FBOs, airlines, and ground handling. Contact one of Aviation Pros' helpful account representatives to find out more.
We're back with Bob McCreery, and now that we've gotten some insight into your FBO's initial journey into the world of ISBA, I'd like to ask you a few more questions and gather a couple additional details about your latest achievement, which is, of course, the Stage 3 registration. So, Bob, what steps did your FBO need to take to just initially prepare, from what you've learned at the Stage 2 level and get ready for that Stage 3 audit?
Well, like I said earlier, there's 2 years between each audit. So as soon as the stage 2 was done, of course, we just continue with the program. And every year there is an updated ISBA protocol document that they put out, and we download that, we study it, and make appropriate updates to our SMS, our emergency response plan, or the ERP, and our SOPs. We make sure that we are keeping up with all the records up to date, including our training records, equipment inspections, internal audit programs, etc. But above all, we want to make sure that our SMS is wholly functional. That our personnel are fully engaged, and that our safety committee is active in helping to make a difference in the organization. So when you get down to your stage 3, it's at that point they pretty much assume you have all the pieces in place, but they really want to see, are you really living the safety culture through your SMS program? So, yeah, we were very, very conscious of that and worked really real hard towards that for the stage 3.
And I think you allude to my next question really well with that last answer. And, while you gave some great examples of kind of areas that need to be addressed, do you have any specific examples of improvements that needed to be made organizationally to align with the ISBA standards as you were kind of moving through the program?
Well, one thing with the SMS, there's a function in there where the staff, can give hazard reports. They see something's not right or whatever. So we get those reports going, and as a result of those reports, things change. Training guys on procedures. But one of the really nice things was, as a result of that, over the last couple of years, we've probably made 20 or more additions to our SOPs. Changing procedures, refining procedures that we already had, maybe adding new procedures. So living the program and everyone being involved and reporting issues or hazards. From those, we then grow our SOP and really refine our procedures and our training amongst all the guys. So I think that's been one of the best highlights of this thing. It's not a stagnant program. You're continually moving and growing and improving at all times.
Yeah, and kind of building on that idea of improving your standard operating procedures and, the benefits that come along with that, what additional benefits have you seen your FBO achieve while going through the ISBA process? And as you mentioned, it's this living, breathing thing. Do you anticipate additional benefits moving forward as a result of earning this Stage 3 registration?
Well, I can probably say without a doubt, I believe that we have a much safer and more efficient operation now than we did when we first started this process back in 17. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we have records to prove it, and just being around it for so long, it's obvious when you hear it on a daily basis watching it that we are a much safer operation as a result.
So given that you've had this positive experience with the ISBA program, what advice would you offer other FBOs that are looking to pursue ISBA registration, whether they're starting out at the beginning, looking to set up an SMS and reach Stage 1, or, even for FBOs with a little more experience who are trying to advance to Stages 2 and 3? Do you have a kind of a word of advice for others going through the program?
Yeah, first of all, if your FBO does not have an SMS in place, you certainly need to do that first. And the SMS will help establish and organize the way you reduce hazards and events and help mitigate risk. As I mentioned earlier, we were attracted to the ISBA registration because it integrated robust SMS protocols into it, and so that's really primary. And depending on the size of your operation, how you do it, if you're a larger company with pretty good quality staff, been around for a while, you could do it in-house. If you're a smaller FBO that may not have the staff involved or the time, you may want to go and hire somebody, like we did, Ron and John, to really kind of help us go through the process of with the manuals and the training of our folks and whatever. So, those are options, how you can go through it all. But one thing about the ISBA registration, it identifies to aircraft operators, that your organization is, striving to meet the highest standards in the industry, which is what we're really looking for. And for those guys that are already in it, they're looking to advance to Stage 2 and Stage 3. Make sure you have a good safety manager in place. We had a good safety manager in place and really helped manage this program. And I'll tell you, without a good, strong person there to run this thing, it'll be difficult. So get you a good safety manager, give that person the proper training, provide that person with the authority to make effective decisions about safety within your organizations as well. And the audits for advancing to Stage 2 and 3 are much more stringent than Stage 1. So make sure your SMS is operating as it should, and keep good records and check your progress against the ISBA protocols, and keep safety training foremost in your organization. A strong internal safety culture is really paramount in succeeding, getting through the Stage 2 and the Stage 3.
I think that's really useful insight, especially given your FBO's firsthand experience with the program. So I really appreciate that. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Aviation Pros podcast. I'd like to once again thank our guest, Bob McCreery, president of McCreery Aviation. And if you'd like to learn more about his FBO, you can visit www.McCreeryAviation.com. And for more information about FBO and ground handling operations, stay up to date by subscribing to Ground Support Worldwide and Airport Business's daily newsletters. And please continue to visit AviationPros.com.